Hey friends, welcome back to Cake Decorating 101. If you're new here, my name is Steph. I'm a baker, an engineer, and a triathlete. And today I'm going to be talking to you about different fillings for cakes and how I make them.
Okay, let's go.
Now I use kind of like the same base standard recipe for all of my fruit fillings. So for example, here I have 2 cups of frozen raspberries, about a 1/4 cup of white sugar, 1 ounce of lemon juice or the juice of like 1 lemon, and 1 tablespoon cornstarch, which I'll mix in 2 tablespoons of cool water to make a slurry. I use this like same base for all my fruits, so whether it's 2 cups of raspberries or 2 cups of strawberries or 2 cups of peaches or 2 cups of chopped apple, it's all the same ratio of fruit to sugar, lemon juice, and cornstarch. The only thing that I'll change is if it's like peaches, I might add in a dash of cinnamon, or same with the apples. But cooking it all up is the same process. The first thing I'm doing is cooking up the fruit by itself for a little bit, and then I add in the sugar and the lemon. It's on medium heat, and I just want to keep stirring so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan and burn. I like to break the fruit up a little bit with a spatula too. Now for the cornstarch, I added the water, and then we're gonna mix that into a slurry. Once it's combined, we pour that in and mix quickly. Cornstarch is what will thicken the filling. It has almost no taste. You just want to cook for a little bit after you add it to make sure you kind of cook out any flavors that come from the cornstarch, and to continue thickening up the filling. This way it won't seep out of the layers. It kind of turns any like juices into more of a thicker jelly. And this will also continue to thicken a little bit as it cools. So once it's at a nice consistency, I would say not quite a jam, but not a liquid anymore, take it off the heat and then into a glass container to cool. Once the jam has cooled, I'll put it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. I typically make my fillings the day before I make my cakes. And you can see here, it's become a thick jelly-like consistency, and I'm not worried about this leaking out between the layers of my cake. For more tips on how to stack, fill, and crumb coat your cakes, including why I do that little dam of buttercream frosting around the outside, and some other tips to make sure the filling doesn't leak out, check out part 1 of Cake Decorating 101, where I cover all of those steps. This raspberry jam filling was going into a lemon cake, so the sweetness and tartness pairs perfectly with the lemon cream cheese frosting. I love a good fruit filling with a cake to balance the flavors. One of the other common fillings that I use is chocolate ganache. So to prep that, all we need is heavy cream, some dark chocolate, a little bit of sea salt, a scale, and a bowl. To make the ganache, we have equal parts heavy cream and chocolate chunks. So I'm starting with 110 grams of heavy cream, and I'm gonna go heat this up in the microwave. Once the heavy cream is warm, we can add the equal weight of chocolate chips or chocolate chunks. I prefer chocolate chunks because chocolate chips have anti-melting agents in them, so they hold their shape if you put them in a cookie. So they tend to not make as smooth of a ganache. Once it's in there, I just swirl it so the chocolate's fully covered, and then let it sit for a bit so the chocolate starts to melt from the warmth of the cream. Once it's sat for a bit and the chocolate is softened, we can start to whisk it together. It takes a while, but just keep whisking and it will come together. Now we add any flavorings. I always add a touch of sea salt. It helps to balance the flavor and it brings out the richness of the chocolate. Whisk that in. You can also add things like a bit of espresso powder or orange zest or pistachio extract. Now, if not using right away, I'll either put it in a Tupperware or cover the bowl with plastic wrap. And this can go in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Once it's been refrigerated, it will set up to be a bit more solid, so we'll just have to reheat it and re-whisk it when we're ready to use. Now I put that ganache in the fridge overnight, so to get it ready to use as a filling, I put it in the microwave for about 15 seconds and then stirred it up. And now it's easy to scoop and put between my cake layers. It's spreadable but not quite runny. For this cake filling, I also added some chopped up Reese cups. I really like my cakes to have a range of textures, so when doing a candy bar flavored cake, I will often put in chopped up pieces of that candy bar to bring a bit of crunch. If I'm not using a candy bar, I'll sometimes put chocolate covered quinoa puffs, which are just like these little crunchy chocolate covered pearls. You don't taste the quinoa, it just tastes like dark chocolate. You can also do chopped up cookies like Oreo or Biscoff. And speaking of which, I very rarely use pre-made fillings on my cakes. The one exception is Biscoff bread. The stuff is so good, no changes needed. To get it ready to fill the cake, I'll just scoop it out, put it in a bowl and microwave it for 30 seconds. That way I can pour it into the layer instead of having to like try to spread it out. And that's it, folks. Those are my 3 most common recipes for cake fillings. I often do stuff where there isn't really a recipe, like just chopped up fresh fruit, like fresh strawberries, or crumbled up cookies, like crumbled up Oreos. But those are the 3 most common actual recipes. My cooked fruit fillings, my chocolate ganache, and then the Biscoff isn't really a recipe, but more of an idea to like warm it up so it's easier to do the fillings. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys found this helpful, and stay tuned for the next part in the Cake Decorating 101 series.